Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Massa. Well, in this short little video, I want to discuss with you what 2 degrees Celsius more heat, that is in addition to the warming that has already taken place, and that could lead to catastrophic sea level rises. Okay, here we go. Climate scientists warn that unless the world acts to limit global heating, not saying limit, not even stop it, the Antarctic ice sheet could begin irreversible collapse. The ice on the Antarctic continent could raise global sea levels by more than 47 meters. Global warming of just 3°C above the long term average for most of human history would bring on a sea level rise from the South Pole melting of at least 5 millimeters a year. And of course, we know greenhouse gas emissions continue to increase and so on. So they're saying the world is on course for temperatures significantly above 3°C. Once again, the good old underestimation. They are not taking into account the exponentiation and the positive feedback loops of the methane issue, be it from the permafrost or from the hydrates in the ocean. They are not taking into account the heating of the ocean, where eventually the oceans can only absorb so much heat, but as you increase the water temperatures, you decrease the solubility of gases, thereby that the oceans will no longer be able to keep absorbing the CO2. Saturation will be reached, and then outgassing of the CO2 back into the atmosphere will occur, further warming the planet. As I said before in other video segments, the likely scenario is 7 to 9°C by 2100. So you can take the information I'm sharing with you here in this paper. This is my critique here. We can take this information and then extrapolate outwards what the rates of melting and sea level rise would really be. And don't assume linear, but exponential. Researchers calculate in a study published in the journal Nature that any global warming that exceeds the target of no more than 2°C by 2100, yuck, yuck, please share the foliage you are smoking. We could only use that hit. Will put the ice shelves that ring that Antarctica at risk of melting. So what they're looking at is the ice shelves themselves. So when they say that what the sea level rise will be, it's the loss of that ice shelf. Then when you factor in the entire ice on Antarctica, the entire, all 2 mile thick of that stuff over the entire continent, that could increase sea levels by at least 47 meters. So the mass and extent of sea ice, as well as shelf ice, acts as a buttress for the land ice moving into the sea. So if the sea ice melts, then the flow of glacial ice to the sea will accelerate. And some of the shelf ice is cantilevered out over the ocean. So it's cantilevered past the grounding line. And so you lose the sea ice, then you put that shelf ice at risk. We get the breaking off, as we've been seeing. And then that all snaps off and that gets into the ocean. And then all that land ice behind it starts flowing and moving towards the sea. And that will accelerate because all that weight, and with the warming, you get lubrication on the bedrock and so forth. Ice sheet collapse is irreversible over thousands of years, and if the Antarctic ice sheet collapse becomes unstable, it could continue to retreat for centuries, said Daniel Guilford of Rutgers University, a member of the research team. That is regardless of whether emissions mitigation strategies such as removing CO2 from the atmosphere are employed. In other words, it don't matter. At that point, it'd be too late. It don't matter what we do. The scientists, of course, have been warning for years of the potential loss of shelf ice. They've also been warning that this ice loss could become irreversible. And they've measured the rates of loss frequently enough to be confident that it is accelerating. So the ice in Antarctica sits on a landmass that's basically larger than the US and the EU combined. The burden of ice adds up to 30 million cubic kilometers, and some of it flows as vast glaciers 50 kilometers wide, 2,000 meters deep or thick. And it's been concerned that some flows are accelerating, and now we have data indicating that they are indeed doing just that. So the concern is that at 3C, nothing could prevent eventual ice sheet attrition over the following centuries. The latest research confirms these concerns. These results demonstrate the possibility that unstoppable catastrophic sea level rise from Antarctica will be triggered if the Paris Agreement temperature targets are exceeded. Well, we're already at 1.4. We're going to go past 1.5, and we'll probably blow past 2C by before this decade is out at the rate things are going. But don't forget, now Mauna Loa, we're measuring what? CO2 levels at 421. It went from 414 to 417, bang, it just jumped to 421. That's going to further increase. And as I said before, eventually the oceans will stop absorbing CO2 and start outgassing that back out, further increasing the warming. And then you couple that with the methane release from the permafrost and the hydrates. And don't forget, methane oxidizes the carbon dioxide, so it's still going to linger. So we have all these things coming down. They're looking at what happens when you lose the sea ice and then the shelf ice behind it, and then behind that is the land ice. If all of that were to melt, of course, sea ice does not add to sea level increases, but it does act as a buffer. But if you lose the shelf ice and the land ice together, total, you're going to lose. You're going to result in sea level rise of about 47 or more meters higher. I did a video talking about Antarctica hysteresis. I think there's a little animation in there showing, how much ice is lost from the continent with, 2 degrees C increase, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. By the time you get to 7 to 11 C higher, pretty much all that ice on Antarctica is gone. And some of the models I'm seeing, they're saying 7 to 9 or even 9 to 11 C by 2100. So they're assuming 3C. If these models are correct, and it is exponentiating, and this is more likely scenario that it's going to be minimum 5 to 7 C, you're going to lose a hell of a lot more ice. You're going to have a hell of a lot higher sea level rise within this century, not several centuries, but within the century, basically in the next 80 years. So, and if it goes to 9 to 11, then you're going to lose all the ice in Antarctica, and you could have sea level rise, of this 47 or more, probably 58 meters, and so forth. Now, of course, the ice melting would take some time to melt. It's not going to just melt all at once, but it will be melting, and we'll be adding sea level rise, flooding local areas. And we don't even have to wait for the 47 or more rise in sea level. Just a few tens of centimeters, even a meter or two increase will be enough to cause havoc. Flooding coastal areas, coastal cities, flooding major river drainage basins, bring with it the brine water. So just a couple, 30 centimeters, a meter and a half, that'll be enough to cause problems, major problems. And we're already seeing in places like Miami where sea level is increasing. We got water running down the street. We have the infiltration of brine into the water tables. We're seeing this stuff already. Climate change due to planetary warming is happening right now. Not something's going to happen down the road. It's happening right now, affecting us all. This is just one of many effects. I've discussed with you ice melting, sea level rise. I discussed with you all the oceanographic aspects, the atmospheric aspect, and I discussed with you, crop failures, available water, droughts, floods, excessive precipitation. These are all coming down the pipe. It's happening now. And don't forget, there's wildfires. If you got drier conditions, you're going to have fires. So climate change is happening right at this very moment, and it will negatively impact us all. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.